Hi everybody. Today I have a question I want you to ponder. I want you to ask yourself, how do you catch a cold? Have you ever wondered why some people get sick and some people don't, even though they were exposed to the same environment? See, our environments have viruses and bacteria and fungus and parasites. They're in us, around us all day long. Okay, so we're constantly exposed to these things. If someone's having an active viral infection, then obviously they're going to have more of that. And that's going to make it harder on our systems to overcome that. But what's the one thing that we have in common with all of those situations? And it's us. It's our immune system, and it has to do with our immune system. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It has to do with how well our immune system fights. And that immune system is fighting every single day. It's attacking cells that don't belong. And that includes cancer cells, that includes viruses and bacteria and parasites and everything that's not supposed to be there. The immune system's job is to find it and get rid of it. Now, the one thing that controls that more than anything else is the nervous system. The nervous system's job is to perceive our environment, control and coordinate all the cells and all their functions. And in response to that, they're using the immune system to fight off infection. And we have to ask ourselves, how does the nervous system get stressed? Well, it comes from the 3 T's that we talk about here all the time. That's your traumas, thoughts, and toxins, or your physical, chemical, and emotional stress. So our physical stresses are slips, falls, accidents, and repetitive motions, things like that. And then we have chemical. That's what we eat, drink, put into, and on our bodies. That includes medications, vaccinations, you name it. Everything that we're exposed to, the body has to adapt to. And the third one is emotional stress. So that's our fears, worries, it's tax time, you got to worry about that. You know, you got a family member pass away or a family pet. All of those are stress events, and they're cumulative. And that stress and tension builds up in the nervous system to a point where the nervous system no longer functions at its full potential. And when that happens, that's when we get sick. So I got a little example for you. Let's pretend it's the weekend and we're going to head out and we're gonna go over to some friend's house. So we're in a strange environment. We're gonna spend the night, so we're gonna be sleeping in a strange bed. We're gonna eat foods with our friends that are usually naughty and outside of our normal eating. Let's say we eat a bunch of pizza and then we decide to have some beer, okay? And then we have a bonfire. Now we're sucking in a bunch of black smoke. We're outside in the cold wind, and we've got chemical stress, we've got emotional stress because we're in a social environment and we're trying to navigate that. Even if they're close friends or family, it's still a stress. And then comes Sunday, all of a sudden you got a little tickle in your throat. And you're like, well, you know, Sally said she wasn't feeling so good. It wasn't about Sally, it's about you. You put your body through so much stress that it got depleted. And when it got depleted, you ended up sick. That's the nervous system controlling the immune system, expressing itself to the fullest. That's why we get a cough, to get rid of this stuff that's inside of us. That's why we get throw up. That's why we have a fever. All of those things are normal functions of the nervous system and the immune system getting our body back into balance. So when we get to that point, how do we fix it? I like to look at things from the inside out. So if we're adjusting the spine through chiropractic adjustments, then we're releasing that stress that's built up on the nervous system. And when we do that, the body can heal itself from the inside out. We're removing the interference that's blocking it from doing that. So it's going to express those things fuller. We're going to be able to see a lot of times we have kids, they'll spike a fever right after they get an adjustment because we kind of activate the system, and the system says, whoa, we got more going on than we thought. we need to get this out of here. So they'll spike a fever, or they'll go home and they'll have a major bowel movement, or they'll go home and they'll throw up. There's lots of different things that can happen after an adjustment, and all it's doing is activating that nervous system to get that immune system to boost to its fullest level. And I like to start there. I think chiropractic is that first line of defense. Before we do any kind of medications or over-the-counter drugs, you name it, whatever it is. If we can get to the cause and work on that from the inside out, then we can start to see those changes. And at the same time, we can start to help the body, support the body from the outside in through supplementation, through diet changes, through getting our water intake up, doing those types of things to help boost the immune system. And when we do that in coordination, we're hitting from the inside out and from the outside in, not just from one direction. We're boosting the body's natural ability to take care of it. And that's what's really cool. So even if chiropractic is your first line of defense, and that's the first place you go when you get sick, how often do you have to keep coming? The answer is until those symptoms go away. Okay, and probably even further if we take a closer look at your nervous system and understand that it's bound up and wound up, and the reason why you got sick is because the nervous system was stressed in the first place. And so care planning becomes very, very crucial. But if we're, let's say, in a maintenance state, like many of our patients are here at Innate, and they're coming in every week, and all of a sudden they get sick, now we're going to see them for some boost adjustments, a little bit more than what they had been experiencing until we get them through that. Because when we're dealing with illness, when we're dealing with the immune function, it's about getting through it. It's not about getting rid of it. It's about letting our bodies understand, educate itself, and remember how to heal. And when it does that, each time it gets stronger. So every time these kids get exposed to RSV, and then they get exposed to the rhinovirus, and then they have hand, foot, and mouth, and then they have impetigo, and then they get chickenpox, and then they have measles, and they have all these childhood illnesses. When they work through them, especially when we're boosting the body through chiropractic adjustments, we're allowing the nervous system and the immune system by default to learn. And when it learns, it becomes very, very strong. And what we see in our office is less and less illness. And even when kids do get sick, instead of being sick for, let's say, 2 weeks with the flu, which is what most people go through, these kids are kicking the flu in like 3 days. They may only have a fever for a day or two, and then their body's kicking it, and then they're back at school by the end of the week. It's super cool to allow your body to heal itself and to learn those things. So how do we, once we've decided that we're going to work through this illness, how do we know how often? Well, the answer relies on 2 parts. One, you have to get scanned. We have to understand what that tension and stress that's built up on that nervous system looks like. And the scans that we do in our office allow us to see that. The second component is when you get on that table with a neurotonal adjuster like myself, we get to see where that tension is on the spine, and we get to find where the input needs to happen so that we can release it and create balance in that tone. When the tone resets back to a balanced state, then we're functioning at our highest level, and that's super cool. And then each adjustment boost on the last one. So, and I have to throw this in here. This is a study that was done several times, and depending on which paper you read, you could have 200% to 400% boost in immune function. And what they measured was T cell production. And so If you look at the literature, you see that the adjustment basically boosts the immune function, which is super cool. We've been saying that for a long, long time. So what do we need to do? We need to get checked and adjusted if necessary. We need to get scanned to see what it looks like, and then we got to come up with the right plan to get that system to unwind, restore, rebalance, and then it's firing together, it's wired together, and it is ready to rumble. And that is how we grow a healthier community together.